intimate, up close and personal, and that will add, I think, a real electricity to it tonight, perhaps.
Given also that, you know, for the rest of the campaign, they're away from each other. And I don't know what the arrangements are, whether they meet each other beforehand and have a little chat, but there is that strangeness of being just a few feet away from the person that you've been slagging off for the last 4 years. And that, I think, can actually be quite disarming. As well as energising, it can actually make you feel a bit awkward.
There's normally the old dispatch box in the middle, isn't there, for Prime Minister's question time, which is a sort of at least a physical barrier in between.
But you hear it, like, people who do impressions actually don't like to meet the people that they impersonate, because the chances are when you meet someone, you get a little bit nervous yourself, but also you come away thinking, actually, he's quite a nice guy. Maybe I ought to tone it down a bit. And that's the last thing they want to hear. So there is that thing of that not just that body language, but the psychology of being in the same room that you've been quite vociferously antagonistic towards in all the media.
I mean, politics isn't for nice guys, really, is it?
Well, except it's a contest to see who's the nicest, who people take to your house.
But the nicest, but the toughest. I mean, it is, you know, iron fist in velvet glove time, isn't it?
And I suppose the big story today is, you know, can Nick Clegg take it? And also, can he take the media pressure? And there's been a whole spate of headlines this morning of scandals involving Nick Clegg. And I've noticed that the buzz on things like Twitter and Facebook is just how ridiculous and far-fetched some of the stories are. So someone is now, within hours of these headlines, someone has actually come up with a random Nick Clegg Daily Mail headline generator, which you can hit, and it generates its own anti-Nick Clegg. So, you know, headline saying Nick Clegg may have stolen France, or Nick Clegg may burgle your children.
He may have set off a volcanic eruption in Iceland, all that sort of thing. So plenty of fun to play.
I think there is a paper trail as we speak that's going back to his office.
But I mean, it is a bit like kids in the playground, isn't it? You know, the other two suddenly might gang up on the guy who all the girls like best.
Well, there is that, but I think also genuinely the people watching it are genuinely interested in what they are talking about. And I think actually what was interesting about last week's debate was when they tried to personalise it and have their own little backstories of a guy I met in Plymouth, or, you know, I feel your pain. I think actually the audience weren't persuaded by that, and rather liked it when they stuck to arguments. They didn't like it when they went on the attack on other parties, and they did like it when they got down to the brass tacks of what their policies were. So there's that little running agenda as well. You've got to appear human, you've got to appear on top of your brief, you've got to be personable, and yet you've not got to look like you have been trained in being personable.
Is it though just a beauty show? Surely we, the public, are much cannier than that. We see through all that. We actually want some substance, don't we?
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, my feeling from the day the election was called was it was going to be very close, and we could well end up with a hung parliament, and there was a real hunger for something a little bit different, but nobody quite knew what. Weren't quite sure maybe whether David Cameron quite fitted that bill, but weren't quite sure what. And given that was quite palpable 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think it's actually no surprise that we're at the position that we're at now. What happens next? I've no idea. I mean, I hope that it won't take a silly little thing like someone getting someone's name wrong, or saying we're going to invade China or something like that, just to swing the whole thing. And I think the electorate are a bit more savvy and sophisticated than that. But it is interesting that actually I think quite a lot of the public have seen through the spin and all the devices normally used to sell a campaign, like posters and slogans and even manifesto front covers.
Certainly turning out better than we all thought. Armando, pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.